Well, hey folks, real honestly with John Wrestling, these are 10 more talented Impact Wrestling used better than WWE did. And if you watched the first installment, you watched this installment, and I missed any that you guys feel that I should mention, please leave in the comments, and I will be happy, more than happy to make another list if I can at least get 7 to 10. And I do want to give a big thanks to JJF Rants and Blackfoxx with 2 X's on YouTube for leaving great YouTube comments. And thank you to anybody that leaves suggestions for entrance on countdowns, or, you know, whatever type of countdowns, whether it's wrestling related, whether it's movie related, any of that stuff. And a big thank you to anybody who suggests show topics. Thank you to all the fellow wrestling fans. I really appreciate it. It's fun to interact with everybody and have a really, really cool group of people that I talk to and interact with in the wrestling fan community. Since that's all I am, a wrestling fan, not a journalist, not any of this stuff. So thank you guys for that. I really do appreciate it. You guys really do add a ton more to this channel than you may ever know. So let's start off proper with Jeff Jarrett. And the reason I'm putting Jeff Jarrett number 10 is, yeah, he owned the company. But after being ousted from Power and having the whole thing, having like the whole thing happen like with him and Karen, he was still treated like a star at least for a few years until he eventually ended up kind of going by the wayside and trying to start Global Force Wrestling, which that hasn't worked out all that well. They still treat him like a pretty big star, and he had some pretty big feuds and stuff like that. The problem with Jarrett was that he was always a mid-card guy and never going to be a main event guy, and he basically had to create his own damn company to be a main event guy. And I ran about that in my 10 wrestlers whose egos ran wild countdown, which, cheap plug, by the way, check that out. People really liked it. It's lengthy. It's like 36 minutes, almost 37 minutes, but worth it because really got a lot of anger out of my system. With Jeff Jarrett, what I did appreciate is they at least treat him like a star. Even after losing Power, they still treat him like he was somebody that meant something to the company. And then you got all the legal stuff going on here and everything, and I'm not going to talk about that. But Jarrett had some pretty good feuds, and all my ranting about him, he still had some pretty good feuds. Now we go to Mickie James at number 9. Yes, Mickie was used pretty well in that build-up, especially that feud with Trish, and some other stuff in the 07, 08. But then after that, especially that whole Mickie James thing in the end of 09, beginning of 010, beginning of 2010, which was ridiculous and was one of the reasons I hated Michelle McCool. And it's not her fault. Michelle McCool was just doing her job and stuff like that, but that was stupid. Mickie was treated like a star in TNA Impact Wrestling for a couple years. I mean, by about 2013, things started to kind of end. I mean, I believe her and Magnus, I believe she got pregnant at some points because her and Magnus have a kid. I think they just have one. Not that it's any of my business. I wish them nothing but the best, but I know that's why she was off TV after a bit. She released a country album. Even one of her themes was one of her songs, which is pretty cool. But she had some good matches. She had some really, really good matches and was a really good worker, and still is. She's still doing some great work whenever they give her the opportunity to do it in WWE. But, and you know, the end of her Impact career, so to speak, being kind of written. Well, I mean, it wasn't like the very end, but the whole thing with James Storm and the train and that kind of shit, that was pretty ridiculous. But for a couple years, they did treat her like the star that she really is. And for that, especially, like, you know, taking in like certain years of her tenure in WWE, Impact did treat her a whole lot better, at least for a couple. And then we get to the Pope D'Angelo Dinero. Why this guy was not used better as an upper mid-card guy, I will never know. I know he had a shoulder injury right at Lockdown 2010, which is why he lost AJ Styles and why he was off TV for a bit. But they never used him all that well after that. And it was kind of a shame. Now, he was super over and stuff like that. And he's a good worker. And by the way, it's Elijah Burke from WWE, in case anybody remembers. I thought he was a good enough worker and they could have used him a whole lot better. At least they gave him a title shot and tried to use him as kind of a big deal. He had a pretty cool theme, I thought. But the last thing I remember them doing with him, at least as an active competitor, was turning Devon's sons against Devon, and then that was it. And then Pope showed up on commentary and was commentator with Josh Matthews for a while, which Josh Matthews, I've heard some of his commentary lately. Is the guy sick? Is the guy dealing with stuff? Has he shot his voice? I mean, I've done videos with, you know, a shot voice before, and I know how rough it is. So, serious question. I may not like Josh Matthews, but is the guy okay? Because he really doesn't sound that good. He sounds like he's forcing everything. Like his voice is pretty much destroyed. But anyway, Pope did fine. I thought he did fine on commentary, but at least Impact used him better than WWE did, because he was never really treated like any kind of big deal. He was treated like barely mid-card. That whole thing with the new breed in ECW didn't work out. The new WWE CW didn't really work out all that well. So yeah, I thought they used him better. And then we go to Mike Bennett. Now, Mike Bennett, and I mean, you know, he's Mike Kanellis now, but he is he's a good worker. I don't know if he'll ever be any more than a mid-card act in WWE, and that, just meaning how they view him. He was a good star in Ring of Honor, and they treated him pretty well in Impact for a bit, and then they stopped doing anything with him, and then he showed up in WWE. Then he had the whole thing where he had to go through rehab. And good thing that he got clean. Tremendous that he got clean. And hopefully he stays clean. Him and Maria seem very happy together. They have a kid. He seems to be doing good being a spokesperson for sobriety. And that's really awesome. It's great that they put him on 205 Live. He's cut. He's in really good shape. Hopefully they can start using him a whole lot better. But yeah, for now, I mean, unless he has a breakout 2019. I almost said 2020 because I forgot what year it was. That shows just how many times I've been hit in the head. His Impact run was a ton better than his WWE run. I've often forgotten that he's part of the company. And that's not knocking him. They barely used him. So hopefully his 205 Live run works for him. Now, move on to Eli Drake. He was given such a ridiculous name that I forgot to write down, and I just remember it being so goddamn generic. Like, in WWE and WWE developmental, I mean, Eli Drake's fine, and he's over. He is a good talent. Has really good mic skills. He is a perfect fit for Impact. If he wanted to be used in Ring of Honor also, I think he would get over. I don't think he would need to go to WWE. And I mean, that's not what this list is about, but there are plenty. And I did a list months ago about 10 wrestlers that don't need WWE to succeed. And I think it's pretty obvious that I probably could do a couple more lists of that. But the problem is if I get into that, I'll probably start doing lists of people that will be signed in WWE pretty soon. But anyway, Eli Drake is really, really good. He's perfect fit for Impact Wrestling. He has the star power to help make that brand a whole lot better. I can't keep up that much on Impact Wrestling. I do check out reviews of a couple of fellow YouTubers that I follow, and also a couple others that do written blogs of it. So I really appreciate that. Because I watch WWE and New Japan, I also watch NXT, and even though I only review WWE and New Japan, and my co-host, my best friend Durbinator reviews NXT, it's a whole lot to cover with a full-time job, so yeah, I dropped some. But anyway, Eli is very tremendous. My God, he's a tremendous guy, and hopefully he continues to be used well by Impact. Because if he goes to WWE, mid-card at best. Just with how many talents they have. Not even that he isn't talented enough to be above the mid-card. So, number 5, Chris Harris. Because he wasn't Braden fucking Walker in TNA. My fucking Christ. Oh, God, he was Braden Walker in ECW. Braden Walker, knock, knock, I'm Braden Walker and I'm going to knock you out. Or something like that. It was so terrible. And he showed up so out of shape. One, Chris Harris and James Storm were an incredible tag team in Impact Wrestling as America's Most Wanted, one of the best tag teams that they've ever had. James Storm was also part of another one of the best tag teams that Impact Wrestling has ever had, and that would be Beer Money. Funny how James Storm is so good at tag team wrestling. I mean, he's good as a singles wrestler also, but it's just weird how some people just fit in so well with others. But Chris Harris, he could have been a breakout singles guy, but then that whole thing that happened in 2007, he suddenly was jobbed out to Judas Macias. He was beaten up, and then he was taken off TV, and then he was fired, and then he showed up in ECW, or WWE's version of ECW. I don't know how much extra pounds he had, or how many extra pounds he had, but he had a lot. And it was sad, and it was scary, and he was immobile, and he was gone within a few weeks. I think he was on TV for 2 weeks, maybe a month at the most. He was gone quickly. And then he showed back up in Impact Wrestling. In 2011, as Matt Hardy's, reveals a partner. And he didn't stay around after that, and yeah, it was just bad. Chris Harris, though, in his first run was used fucking tremendously. Just a damn shame that didn't work out after that. So then we go to Drew Galloway. Now look, and I'm referring mainly to Drew's first run. in WWE because after he had, been named the Chosen One, won the IC title, been on a bit of a tear. After he lost the IC title, he was, tag champs with Cody Rhodes. That didn't go over all that well. He was then put in 3MB. Nothing really worked all that well, and then he was fired in 2014, and then went on a fucking tear on the indies, did well in Impact Wrestling, became world champion, really had a world beater gimmick because, one, he looked like he hit the gym hard. It wasn't that he wasn't in shape before, but my God, he had the perfect look, transformed himself, and looks fucking tremendous. Now he's being used well. Like in NXT, he's used pretty well. Now on the main roster, he's used pretty well. Should be Universal Champion right now. As a recording this video, he's not, but that's okay because Vince is stupid and sometimes bad at everything. But with Drew Galloway, he was treated like a goddamn star. He was treated like the star in Impact that he should have been treated like in WWE. And it's great that he was able to have a couple good years there. And that they were able to get some good matches out of him. He had a good match with Kurt Angle during Kurt's retirement tour before Kurt left Impact Wrestling. There was a lot of good shit. A lot of good shit that Drew did. And he continues to do it. I'm just saying, it's like his run in Impact Wrestling was so much better than his first run in WWE. So yeah, that's why I'm putting him up this high. And then we go to Matt Morgan. Matt Morgan should have been world champion also, because the guy was a genetic freak. Hugely talented, very agile, very good mic skills, very good spokesperson for the company. I think he could have been a good spokesperson for the company. He was there for a while, and they kept doing stop-start pushes with him. Now, don't get me wrong, they used him a ton better than WWE did, because WWE used him like absolute shit. Matt Morgan is a tremendous talent. Matt Morgan is somebody they should have built around as being a main event guy, and they didn't. And it's stupid. It was fucking horrible. But whatever. He was still used better than he was in WWE. At least he was featured in some high-profile matches. and some good action. He was, had some good feuds. They flipped off him a little face to heel a couple too many times, but still, for how he was featured and what he was allowed to do, he was able to do a whole lot more. I mean, hell, he could get on the top rope, do a dive, and for a 7-foot guy coming at you doing that, that's tremendous. He should have been used a little bit better, but still was used much better than he was in WWE. And then we get to Monty Brown. Monty Brown's another guy who should have been world champion. He should have been. There's no fucking doubt about it. He was over. He had the charisma. He had the character. He had the fans behind him. He had it. And when they didn't make him world champion at the end of 2004, very beginning of 2005 on Fox Sports Net when he faced Jarrett, even though they put him over like a monster because it took a bunch of guitar shots to take him down, that killed him. Not even losing. What killed him was the fact they did it on TV. If they had done a pay-per-view and he had come back and he had just like knocked Jarrett out on TV and he had faced off against Jeff Jarrett soon after and beaten him on another pay-per-view, okay. The fact that he did it on free TV, and then he was then Jarrett's bodyguard or tag partner, and then he was going to face off against Jeff Jarrett, and then he was part of Team Jarrett or Planet Jarrett. It was just bad. It was just bad. They couldn't decide what to do with him after that. They pretty much deflated his balloon. He was nothing after that. And yeah, his WWE run wasn't all that great. I know he had to leave. I think he had to leave because his sister died, and he was going to take care of her 3 kids or something like that, or two of her kids. I know she had kids, and he had a family member that died. My name is his sister, but he had a family member that died, and he was going to go take care of their kids. And WWE decided to let him out of the contract. I just feel that he could have been used a whole lot better. And I know I think he was a personal trainer after that, and probably making some good money. It just feels like Impact missed such an opportunity making him champion. But WWE missed a bigger opportunity by maybe not being, more cool with him and stuff like that and saying, hey, okay, we'll freeze your contract or we'll let you out of your contract and please come back in about 6 months or we'll work with you and we'll work with you to try and get nannies or stuff like that. We want you to stay on. I don't know. It just seems like they could have done more with him. But Impact, up until that point where Jarrett beat him, they were using him pretty well. And then we get to number 1, Bully Ray. Hey, Bully Ray is made world champion. He was allowed to be the full-on dick that he pretty much seems to be. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just guessing. He was made world champion. He did I think he was a 2-time world champion, actually. he was a pretty damn good heel there. He actually really worked well. He was one of the few breakout guys that they used from a tag team to become a heel. And being made world champion puts him above what they did in ECW somewhat, because they used him as a tag team wrestler, because him and D-Von were so damn over. His WWE run, pretty much the same thing. Any type of single run that he had, he was either a hardcore wrestler or pretty much jobbed out like crazy. It wasn't all that much. Impact did use him a whole lot better, especially in those last few years. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. So anyway, those are 10 more wrestling talents that Impact Wrestling used better than WWE did. So what do you guys think? Are there any that I did not mention on the first show or this show? Let me know in the comments if there are some that you feel deserve praise and deserve to be mentioned. If you can come up with a decent enough list, at least 7 to 10, like I said, then I'll do another list. But anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, comment, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.